Are we ready to get this show started? Come on, I need more than that from you. Are we ready to get this show started?
Charlotte, North Carolina, plus everybody watching the stream. Hello, what's good?
The green room's really far away. I promise I'm in good shape. But it's a delight to be here in Charlotte, North Carolina / your living room if you're watching the stream. I'm very excited because today is a special episode because tonight we begin the journey that will take me about 35 years, given how long the books are, into Heroes of Olympus. And I read the first 2 chapters today on the train from Raleigh to here, and the whole time I was on the edge of my seat. So let's get right to it. It's going to be a really fun show, and we have a very fun guest. So please make some noise because I'm never on this journey alone. For our guest tonight, you've heard him on the podcast. He's a very good friend of mine. Please make some noise for Michael Hollis. Now, as I stall and fix my hair, because I already want to fix my hair a lot, but now that there's hundreds of people on the stream, I really got to fix my hair. Why don't you tell us about your history with the Heroes of Olympus series?
Okay then, backing up a little more than that. So read Percy Jackson in high school, reread like up to book 4 where I did my first episode with you and then like stopped for a year. And then we recorded that. And then a week later I had finished Heroes of Olympus.
Nice.
So, yeah, I'm excited to reread and find out what I just kind of like skimmed through because I was too excited to like find out what the big mysteries were and all that stuff. But yeah, let's get to it.
As someone who has to stop, I wish I didn't, because I really want to keep going. But yeah, I get that. I feel like a lot of listeners had a similar thing where they were like, oh yeah, I was keeping up with Mike. And then 2 days later, it's like, I finished Trials of Apollo. So I'm glad that you had a similar experience. I know Kelly had the experience that you said of like reading it so fast that she forgot a bunch of stuff. So even today when I was texting her and I was like, oh, I know what the gold coin means. And she was just like, what exactly do you know? So we will get into all of that, but
Yeah, I'm excited to tap dance all over this trapdoor today.
yeah. The good thing is I'm so early in the process that I feel like you could just like say something and anything will go over my head, because who knows?
Yeah.
But
3 years from now, you'll find out what that means.
yeah, it'll be fun. So let's get into The Lost Hero. The first chapter is just called Jason. And I'm excited for the books. I am sad to see quirky chapter titles go. That is going to be a bit of a loss, but I think it's okay. And I know that a lot of people, especially on social media today, when I tweeted out that I was reading the first 2 chapters, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm so excited to hear about your who the F is Jason moment. I did know that there was going to be a person named Jason. Like, I have stayed mostly spoiler-free of Heroes of Olympus. I really don't know much, but the one thing I did know is that it's 3 new people, and their names are Jason, Piper, and Leo. So
Yeah,
as
it's
far
like
as
on the back cover description.
right, like it's some things. The other thing that is unavoidable is I have the paperback copy, and it looks like the bronze dragons on the cover, but I don't know. But so I didn't have the full who the heck is Jason moment, but I at least had somewhat of that. And we get the first sentence, which in Rick fashion slaps. Opening sentence, even before he got electrocuted, Jason was having a rotten day. Here we go.
Classic Rick. Yes.
Strap in. But yeah, classic Rick and classic like, okay, even though I knew that there was a person named Jason, still a little bit of like, okay, what happened to Jason? And then also part of my brain having to realign of like, oh, right, these are in third person. Like it's not first person like I've been used to for years. So a little bit of a difference there. So Jason is awake in the back seat of a school bus, unaware of where he is, and he's holding the hand of a girl he doesn't know, but thinks she's cute, so he's not going to complain about it. The bus is filled with kids listening to iPods, lol, talking and sleeping. And they look about his age, which he thinks is about 15 or 16. But then he is further scared by not knowing his own age. Oh, what is his age again? The bus is driving through the desert, and Jason is pretty sure he doesn't live in the desert, so he is further confused. And the girl, who is wearing faded jeans, hiking boots, and a fleece snowboarding jacket, here's my question, what's the difference between a snowboarding jacket and a ski jacket?
I've never done either, so you got me.
I have gone both, and I don't think at any point in time someone was like, oh, you're wearing the wrong jacket, sir. I don't know what the difference is. Maybe someone will know. Denver, Colorado, send me an email. But she is dressed like that, and she is squeezing his hand, and she asks if he's okay. And it's weird because it's not narrator Jason, but it's like the narrator that knows what Jason knows. There was like a lengthy discussion about what actual narration it was in the Discord, and there were so many replies that I was like, I can't read this. I'm just going to read the book.
I think you say like kind of omniscient narrator, but this still gets you like the internal dialogue about like what this character is feeling, even if it's not like them telling you.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't think, and I guess I'll just have to see if it happens. It doesn't feel like it's like a biased third-person narrator. Like it doesn't seem like it's the thing where this narrator might say something untruthful. It just might be like the narrator will let you know everything Jason knows, which, as we will soon learn, isn't much. So the narrator says, quote, she wore no makeup like she was trying to not draw attention to herself, but it didn't work. She was seriously pretty. Oh, whoa, narrator Jason, whoever you are. Okay.
Classic.
She also apparently has eyes that change color like a kaleidoscope from brown to blue to green. This does happen to me in direct sunlight. My eyes look more blue. When I made YouTube videos in high school and I didn't have professional lighting and I would just have to sit in front of a window to make my lighting look good, sometimes comments would be like, wow, you have such pretty blue eyes, and be like, they're green, but thank you. Jason lets go of her hand and begins to explain what's up, but he's then interrupted by a grumpy coach of sorts. The narration about him says, quote, he would have looked pretty scary if he wasn't 5'0", which is pretty funny. I mean, Kelly's 5'1", so if we've got a grumpy guy.
Is that short? I mean, I guess like for a coach.
If you're trying to be like intimidating, 5'0" for someone who's, I guess from the initial vibes is that he's trying to be like, oh, look at me, it's Coach Hedge, baby. Like, that
I guess if you like hold yourself like you're taller.
Right, yeah. But also like, I don't know, height is just a number, so, you know. Then apparently when he stands up in the aisle, one of the students yells out, stand up, Coach Hedge. Who's that kid? We gotta get that kid in the story.
Yeah,
I want to know who made that joke, because that's pretty funny. So the coach scans the bus for who said that, but then he locks eyes with Jason, giving Jason a feeling that Hedge knows that he shouldn't be there. But he just says that they're 5 minutes away and they must stay with their partners. He says if anyone causes trouble, he will send them back to campus the hard way, and then swings a baseball bat and mimics hitting a home run. So initially I was like, Coach Hedge means to calm down.
and not be armed.
Right, yeah.
You're allowed to wield a baseball bat at students?
Right, like it's one thing to threaten it, but to also have the bat there, maybe a little far. Jason asks the girl, can he talk to us that way? And she replies, always does. This is the wilderness school. And I was like, the what? The wilderness school, where kids are the animals, in a tone like it's a cool, neat inside joke that they have. And Jason goes, haha, okay. Because he has no idea. Jason says he's not supposed to be here, and the kid in front turns and says, yeah, right, Jason, we've all been framed. I didn't run away 6 times. Piper didn't steal a BMW. And I was like, oh, okay, so it's Holes by Louis Satchar. Got it, great. They gotta dig holes, Kissing Gay Barlow, sploosh. Yeah, I know what's happening, cool, great, done. She protests that she didn't steal the car, and then this kid goes, oh, right, you talked the dealer into lending it to you, saying that's the story, she says. Then we learn that this person is Leo, and I know Leo is a much beloved character. Again, I know nothing about him, but he is described as, quote, a Latino Santa's elf with curly black hair, pointy ears, a cheerful baby face, and a mischievous smile. He's also apparently very fidgety, kind of always.
How can you read that and not love immediately? You know?
I mean,
that's just perfect.
Right. I think the description that I took away was, this guy rules. Yeah. He seems pretty great so far, so I'm on board. Leo asks Jason if he has his worksheet because he used his for spit-wads days ago. I'm like, a class clown, I see. Thank you, teacher Rick Riordan. I don't know that people are still doing spit-wads in 2010. I never had a spit-wad fired at me, and I was bullied, so I don't think that happens.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Especially now with straw. You can't spit on a paper straw, it wouldn't work. Jason says that he doesn't know this kid. Leo's in disbelief, and he makes a joke like, oh yeah, I'm not your best friend. I'm your best friend's evil clone. I'm the other guy. Hedge then yells at Leo. Leo winks at Jason and says, watch this, before asking Hedge to use his megaphone so that he can hear him better. And then he does use the megaphone, but first it sounds like a Darth Vader voice, and then it goes, the cow says moo. And now I'm really on board with Leo, because that's a great bit. I don't know how he did it. I don't know if it's a magic thing.
Yeah.
We see soon that he has a screwdriver that he puts in his sleeve, and he says that he's a special boy. So I don't know if he's just a tinkerer or if he's...
Perfect line.
Yeah, I'm a special boy. Because it could be magic. It could be I'm good with the screwdriver. And to me, as someone who's not a handyman at all, I think you are a special boy if you can use a screwdriver, because I don't know what I'm doing. So Jason reiterates that he has no idea what's happening. Leo thinks that it's still a joke, but Jason insists that it's not. Hedge is upset that they're talking so much, so he gives them lunch cleanup duty. And then we eventually at some point learn that the girl's name is Piper. And Piper seems a mix of hurt and worried, asking Jason if he hit his head or something. And Jason confirms that he doesn't know who they are. And he says, look, I don't even know who I am, so please don't be offended. They are then dropped off at a museum in the middle of nowhere. And Jason realizes he's wearing a purple shirt. And I was like, that's one of the other things I know, is that they wear purple, and it's a Rome camp. But I'm pretty sure it's not called the Wilderness School, so I'm still very confused about what's happening. Then we get a quote about it. So a crash course for the amnesiac, Leo said, in a helpful tone that made Jason think that this was not going to be helpful. We go to the Wilderness School. Leo made air quotes with his fingers, which means we're bad kids. Your family or the court or whoever decided you were too much trouble, so they shipped you off to this lovely boarding school in Armpit, Nevada, where you learn valuable nature skills like running 10 miles a day through the cacti and weaving daisies into hats. And for a special treat, we go on educational field trips with Coach Hedge, who keeps order with a baseball bat. Is it all coming back to you now? There's also a person that we're digging holes for named Mr. Sir. So Jason says it's not coming back, and he sees that the group is made up of about 20 guys and 10 girls. Leo still thinks that this is a joke, but continues that the three of them started this semester all together. They're best friends, and Jason gives Leo all his desserts and does all of his chores, and then Piper stops. And that joke in particular, I was like, this guy's great. I'm very on board. I love that. Piper tells Leo to stop and that they have to get Jason some help. Then some dude crashes the group, and his opening line is, yo, Piper. And I was like, not liking this person, whoever it turns out to be. And he knocks Leo down to make things even worse. He says that he is her partner today. And I was like, all right, this dude is gross. And then, as if it wasn't gross enough, he's wearing a Dallas Cowboys jersey? I don't even like football, and I know that's the wrong answer. So I wrote on my notes, all caps, we have found the new Luke. And right after I wrote that, the narration says, Jason hated him instantly.
Or is it the new Nancy Boba Fett?
It is, yeah. As I read more, it is basically the new Nancy. Piper says, go away, Dylan. And apologies to any Dylans out there, but that is a great name for a villain because, one, Dylan the villain, but also... There's just some names that when you say them with disdain sound really good. Anytime I do improv comedy and I need to have a name that I say like sassily, I always go with Rebecca, because just like the 3 syllables and the hard C's be like, okay, Rebecca. Like, it just hits. It's nothing against Rebeccas of the world, but same thing with Dylan. Just like something about going like, all right, Dylan. And then they spell it with a Y also. It's just like, I don't know. It's just a lot of like Dylan.
Can you spell it without a Y?
Yeah, Dillon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think the Y one is more common, so I've probably upset more people, but we'll move on. He locks arms with her and basically drags her into the museum. Say again?
Oof.
Yeah, that big oof. Locks arms with her, drags her into the museum, and he just seems like he doesn't care about consent. I don't like this guy, not a fan, and I'm excited for what happens to him soon. But I will say, Rick Riordan is just so good at this. Like, he is so good at, within 2 lines, making you either love someone or hate someone. It's already happened. I'm already ready to jump in front of a train for Leo, and I'm already ready to throw Dylan in front of the train instead. Leo also hates Dylan, and he makes fun of him going, I'm Dylan, I'm so cool. I want to date myself, but I can't figure out how. Fantastic. And he continues, you want to date me instead? You're so lucky. And I'm imagining Dylan as, I haven't watched the show, so I forget this guy's name, but who's the like dreamboat himbo from Lizzie McGuire? Ethan. I'm imagining this like evil Ethan. I've only seen the Lizzie McGuire movie, and by the movie, he's like nice, but I think he might be mean earlier, but I'm not positive. But I'm imagining this guy as evil Ethan the whole time. Middle part and everything. Jason calls Leo weird. Leo says that Jason says that often, but he's excited that if Jason doesn't remember who he is, he can reuse all his old jokes. And I was like, yeah, I would do the same thing. That's great. So they are finally in the museum, and Jason is too distracted to pay attention to the exhibits about the Grand Canyon and the Hualapai tribe, which own the museum. The popular girl clique, who are all wearing matching jeans and loads of makeup, they try to tease Piper about this, asking Piper if her dad's tribe runs the place. And they say, quote, do you get in free if you do a rain dance?
Not great.
Yeah, I don't know quite what's worse here, just like the super casual racism or like making fun of her for never knowing her mom.
Yeah, it gets, you think that's bad, but it gets worse because Piper responds that her dad is Cherokee, so different tribe. And then Piper to them says, of course, you need a few brain cells to know the difference. Good comeback. But then Isabel from the popular girl clique, she feigns surprise and then asks if her mom is from the Hualapai tribe, but then goes, oh, that's right. You never knew your mom. Like, we need more creative bullies. Like, this is very Draco Malfoy. Like, your parents are dead. Like, that's not a
Isn't
joke.
it so funny how tragic your life is?
Right. Oh, something bad has happened to you. No joke. Like, at least say something of like, didn't your mom go from the Hualapai tribe? Like, make a pun or something. Do something. Don't just be like, your mom's not around. Ha ha! Classic Isabel. So Piper charges at her, but Hedge stops it by threatening to use his baseball bat. And I'm like, all right, Chekov's baseball bat. Like, you better use this thing by the end of the chapter, Coach Hedge. Thankfully, it does get used. So I'm wondering at this point, like, okay, what is this baseball bat? And I'm wondering, we have a reference earlier, Jason got electrocuted. So I'm like, is he going to get zapped by Coach Hedge's baseball bat? No. But something else will happen. So the popular girls continue as if they have not done enough terrible stuff. They ask Piper if it's good to be back on the reservation. And then they say that her dad is probably too drunk to work, which is why she turned into a kleptomaniac. What is, I know it's like a school for bad kids, but like, get these kids out of here.
They are at the same school, so like they clearly have no, like, they're obviously delinquents of some sort.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, why do they think that they're better than whatever they think she did?
Because they have matching pink tops.
Oh, okay.
So Jason, even though he doesn't know who Piper is ready to fight these girls because even if he doesn't remember who Piper is, he hates bullies. And I read my notes, okay, Percy Jackson.
Yeah, very hero-coded.
For sure. Leo tells Jason to cool it because Piper doesn't like them fighting her battles for her. And then he adds that if these girls knew the truth about her dad, they wouldn't tease. And Jason is confused. And then Leo starts to say who her dad is. And then Jason interrupts him before he finishes the sentence. And I know that this is a book and that's how you build suspense. But come on, Jason, let him finish the sentence. Who's her dad? I want to know. And I'm not going to learn for like 3 more chapters now.
Do you have any guesses?
The only thing, as we learn by the end of chapter 2, she doesn't know that she is a demigod, so I would assume...
She's a what?
Oh, sorry, guys.
Fell through your own trapdoor.
Wouldn't it be great if the sequel series was just about normal people? But I would assume, especially coupled with, oh, you never knew your mom, I'm assuming her mother is the godly parent. Okay. And if Leo knows who her dad is, like maybe her dad is some sort of celebrity, I will just guess because of the Louis Sachar train that he is the famous baseball player played by Rick Fox in the movie. I think his name is Fleet Feet or Sweet Feet? Sweet Feet? Thank you. Great. Didn't want Louis to write a nastygram to me. So I'm just going to guess that her dad is a famous athlete. Just off of absolute nothingness and prayers because I love Holes by Louis Sachar.
Okay.
Hedge alerts them that they are soon approaching the terrace to the Grand Canyon. I've never been. I really want to go. Have you ever been to the Grand Canyon?
Yeah, for like 5 minutes. Like when I was driving on a road trip, I like stopped there for sunrise. I was like, oh, it was really nice. And then like had to keep driving.
But you didn't do like the whole museum?
No, I've never been in it or like explored much.
Cool. I know a bunch of people who have done it, and I really want to do it. I have no desire to do anything in Las Vegas. I don't want to gamble. I don't want to go to shows that cost $1 million. I would just want to go to the Grand Canyon. My thought process was always like, I'll get invited to something in Vegas, right? Like one of my friends will do a bachelor party in Vegas, and then I realized all my friends are nerds, so this is never going to happen.
Also,
Absolutely.
way too expensive.
Yeah, it'd be terrible. No, so I'll have to just go there. Maybe I should just book a live show on the Grand Canyon. So they go. Leo says that it's wicked. Jason admires the beauty and thinks that the ravines cut through the desert look like a god had taken a knife to him. Then he goes, "Gods, what had made me think of that?" So it's starting to like.
What a strange, intrusive thought.
Whoa, weird. Like it's maybe starting to come back for him. So Jason then starts to get a little bit woozy. Thunder rumbles overhead. The wind picks up, and Leo notes that it's strange that the storm is only over them but nowhere else. Coach Hedge notices this as well, and he says that the field trip may need to wrap up soon. And at this instance, I was like, ooh, Coach Hedge showing concern and level-headedness? Do I like Coach Hedge?
Is he not this book's Mrs. Dodds?
Right. It was just like, is he not a bad guy? And then we'll see. But initially I was like, do I like Hedge? Jason then just instinctively pulls a coin out of his jeans pocket. And it is a circle of gold the size of a $50, but thicker and more uneven. And initially I just wrote in my notes, coin sword? And then he continues describing it, saying that one side has a battle axe on it. And I was like, coin axe? And then the other side has a dude's face with laurels and IVLIVS written on it. And because I took Latin in high school, I know that J's and U's weren't a thing back then because you couldn't curve things into stone. So this means Julius. It's a Julius Caesar thing. And I'm very glad that the way the order of this worked is I established I took Latin in high school as a Potterless joke where Latin was like maybe only kind of a thing because of spells. And then it worked its way in because otherwise I would be insufferable. So at least now it's like a bit and it's like, haha,
Good
it's
thing we
fun.
avoided that.
Touche, touche, touche. So, the Latin stuff, I'm excited about that. Leo asks if Jason has been holding out on him with the gold. Jason puts it away, but still feels like he'll need it soon. He tells Leo it's just a coin, meaning it's definitely not just a coin. They don't put in much effort into their worksheet. The mix of emotions and storm made paying attention just absolutely impossible. Leo's not very helpful either, spending most of his time making a helicopter out of pipe cleaners. And then he lets it fly across the canyon, and it actually goes pretty far before it dips down. And I thought that was very cool, and I'm very intrigued about what Leo's whole deal is. Like, clearly we've got some sort of tinkering stuff, but is this magical, or is he just a whiz? But I feel like making pipe cleaners fly without rubber bands, there might be some magic in play.
Even with rubber bands, they wouldn't get very far.
Right. So Jason tries to get their backstory a bit, asking about the first day they met, and Leo says he doesn't recall exactly because, quote, I'm ADHD, man. You can't expect me to remember details. Representative ADHD person on the stage. Does this feel like an accurate description? I don't know. I feel like you can remember details of like when we first met. You're not like, who are you? Why am I on tour with you?
I think it varies a lot person to person. Like my long-term memory is great, but like short-term memory, not so much. So it makes sense as an excuse of just like, there's probably a different reason why he doesn't remember the first day, but
Yeah.
that's what his mind went to for why at that moment.
Gotcha. Jason says that he can't remember anything at all, though, and he begins to wonder if, and then Leo goes, you think you just appeared here this morning and we all got fake memories of you? And then Jason thinks, that's exactly what I think.
What a crazy idea.
Whoa. Jason thinks the only other person who may know what's going on is Coach Hedge, so he decides to make his way over to Coach Hedge. And at that point, he notices that the group is the only people on this whole terrace. There's no one else at the museum. So Jason thinks that might be a little bit odd. The second thing he notices is that Dylan is still hitting on Piper, and Piper is looking for help. Jason motions for her to hold on a second as he approaches Coach Hedge. And then Coach Hedge asks Jason if he did this. Jason is confused, wondering if Hedge is accusing him of causing a thunderstorm, and I feel like that's exactly what Coach Hedge is doing. Hedge then asks Jason what he is doing here and why he is messing up his job. Jason asks if Hedge also doesn't know him, and he asks, wait, am I not one of your students? I hoped you were the one person who knew what was going on.
I feel like I've had nightmares exactly like this. Like, I don't know why I'm here, and now someone else is asking me if I'm doing something wrong, but it's like second under, like, I'm about to go on stage and I didn't remember my lines.
Right,
kind of.
or I'm in taking a final for a class that I didn't study for.
Oh, yeah, I never went to this class kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Hedge says he has never seen him before today, which relieves Jason because he thinks, okay, maybe I'm not losing my mind. But then Hedge says that Jason must have a powerful way with the mist if he can make all these kids believe that they know him even though they don't. And this is the point where I felt like I was in the end of Inception, where I was like, this could go either way. Like, either Hedge has absolutely nailed it, or Jason has forgotten his wonderful, loving relationship for friendship with Leo and relationship with Piper. So, like, at this point, it's really 50-50. And funny that we're at a Twilight Zone-themed live show, because right now I'm like, what's the truth?
Which one do you think would be, like, creepier?
Creepier is the people not knowing it, because then Piper, like, is fully convinced that she's dating this dude. When I first started reading it, I was like, oh, this is really cool that we have kind of like a similar trio of the main books, but we already have like the couple that's together, as opposed to like the will they, won't they, them getting together thing. Instead, we like bypass all that and we get to see a new dynamic. That's fun. People with like an established history. But now, like, I will feel really bad for Piper if eventually she snaps out of it and is like, oh, I don't know who you are. But then, like, should we date? Like, I don't know.
You're kind of hot, so.
Right, yeah. Maybe I'm not going to complain about it. Let's figure this out. So, yeah, I think that would be the more dramatic choice.
Yeah, mystery aside, I think just as a device, this is super clever for Rick to be like, okay, here's your new like classic trio of the hero, his best friend, and his girlfriend. So we're going to kind of like skip over a lot of stuff. They already have this dynamic, but since you don't know them yet, they also don't know each other. It's kind of like having your cake and eating it too, with we get to learn about them as they get to know each other, but it's kind of jump starting into like new adventure. Let's go.
Right. It was funny because if anyone on the Patreon heard, I recorded me reading the first couple of pages just to like get any raw reactions. And I was reading it with Kelly there. And at one point, Kelly asked like, oh, how long you're going to read? I was like, and this was only like 3 pages in. I was like, oh, maybe I'll go until like Jason figures out what's going on. And then she laughed out loud. And I was like, as I kept reading, I was like, oh, it appears like that will be the book, not the chapter.
That's exactly why I finished the book in like a day, because I was like, I have to keep going until I figure it out. Which means, I have to wait until he figures it out.
Yeah, someone tagged me to post on Instagram today that was like, I was going to read the first 2 chapters and prep for the live show. I've started book 2 of Heroes of Olympus. Yep, cool. Disney, hit me up. Let's make it happen. So, Hedge says that he's been smelling monster for days, and he knew that they had an infiltrator, but Jason doesn't smell like a monster. He smells more like a demigod, so he doesn't think that he's the monster, but he thinks there might be someone else. So he asks Jason, who are you and where did you come from? And when Jason says he has no idea, Hedge knows that he's being truthful. And now I'm like, all right, I definitely like Coach Hedge. This is cool. He seems like a reputable person.
Did you have any guesses in this moment of
didn't
of the
know.
2 other named characters, which of them could have been a monster?
So we'll get into that in my notes, which is funny. I had no idea what Coach Hedge was, and that took me by surprise. I should have seen it coming. But Jason asks him what he's talking about, the monsters and half-bloods, asking, are those code words or something? And Hedge tells Jason that he doesn't know who he is, but he knows what he is, and he knows that his job is now harder because instead of having to protect 2 kids, he has to protect 3. And I was like, aha. I even wrote, we have another protector situation, but I didn't go the next step of, I wonder if Coach Hedge is a satyr. But it was nice to be like, okay, the other 2 gotta be Piper and Leo. Very fun. And what's also fun is, okay, this is definitely not like the half-blood camp. This is like the Yancey.
Right, yeah. These other people are probably mortal.
Right, but of the only other 2 named people, Isabel and Dylan, it feels like one of them will be the monster. Hedge says this morning he got a message from camp. And I was like, which one? Message from camp that an extraction team is on the way to pick up a special package. He figured it was about the 2 who are older and more powerful than most, and he can tell that they're being stalked by a monster, but now it must be about all 3. Or at least about, maybe it's just Jason, I don't know. And this is where I wrote my notes, gotta be the bullies or the Cowboys guy. But now with Jason, Hedge is wondering, is he the package or are they all the package? Hedge then, by saying all these words, worsens Jason's headache. It's hurting more and more, but Jason still doesn't know what's going on. He stumbles, Hedge catches him. Dramatic Korean music plays because this is a K-drama trope. but Hedge says that he will watch him until the team and the director arrives. Jason is confused. Hedge tells him to hold on and hope that nothing will happen before, and then lightning cracks as the wind picks up and forces the skywalk to wobble. And Hedge goes, I had to say something. And then he orders the kids inside. Jason yells at Hedge that he said this thing was stable, and Hedge says that it is under normal circumstances, which these aren't. Come on! And then we get into chapter 2.
Demigod field trip.
Yep.
Destined to go wrong.
Of course. We get into chapter 2, which is also called Jason. And
I think it's actually just 2.
but it has his name real big at the top. So anyway, chapter 2, Jason. Quote, the storm churned into a miniature hurricane. And I thought, aren't they in the literal desert? How's that possible? I know there's like a river at the bottom, but I don't know if you can make a hurricane out of a river. But details. It's absolute madness.
It's almost like it's magic.
No way! It's absolute madness out there. People are getting yoinked away by the wind. Their backpacks are flying off. The worksheets are going all over the place. It's bedlam. Jason helps Leo get inside safely. Piper and Dylan are holding open the doors to let kids inside. And I wrote, good job, Dylan. Maybe you're not the villain. But then they lose their grip on the doors and the doors slam shut. Piper can't get the door to open again. She asks Dylan for help. And then Dylan looks like he's enjoying the storm. And he tells her, I'm done helping. And then I wrote, just kidding.
He was just getting rid of the bystanders.
Which I guess is nice. Cool. He flicks his wrist, slamming Piper into the doors. And then she is sent sliding across the skywalk, which felt unnecessary. Jason tries to charge forward, but Coach Hedge doesn't let him, insisting that this fight is for him, and he should have known that Dylan was the monster. He wants to take him on. Coach Hedge's hat flies off, and protruding from his curly hair are 2 bumps. And I was like, I should have seen this coming. And the baseball bat wasn't a bat, it was a bat lobster. No, so it's a tree branch club. And Coach Hedge is a satyr. I'm very excited about this. Super cool. Dylan smiles and tells Hedge to let the boy attack him because Hedge is getting too old for this. Quote, I've been on your team the entire season and you didn't even know. You're losing your nose, Grandpa. Hedge then bleats and says, that's it, Cupcake, you're going down. And I'm really glad we like Coach Hedge because throughout the book, he had been calling people Cupcake the whole time. And Cupcake is a great insult. It's really good. I very much enjoy it. I've been a big fan of it ever since. This is going to be a basketball reference people might not get, but Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook have a beef going on. And there was a time when Kevin Durant left his team when he was teammates with Russell Westbrook to go to the Warriors, who had just won a whole bunch of basketball games. So that was seen as a soft move, an easy move. So to get back at him, Russell Westbrook started calling Kevin Durant a cupcake. And the way he first did this was by posting Instagram photos of cupcakes on the day that he decided to leave the team. Oh, delicious stuff. So I'm glad that Cupcake is now like a fun thing. We like Coach Hedge, so Cupcake can be like a cool term of endearment instead of like, oh man, stinks when the bully has a cool line. So Cupcake is on our side, and Dylan scoffs at Hedge, thinking that he can protect 3 half-bloods at once. Dylan makes a funnel cloud appear around Leo, and it sends him flying over the edge, but thankfully he finds a handhold on the Grand Canyon about 50 feet down. But it's not looking ideal for our old pal Leo, or at least in my case, my new pal Leo. He asks for a rope or a bungee cord or something to help him.
If only he had his rubber bands or whatever.
Right? Yeah, maybe he could, if he had pipe cleaners, he could make a tiny little propeller and fly up. Hedge tosses his club to Jason and says, I don't know who you are, but I hope you're good. And he tells him to keep that thing busy, pointing at Dylan. But he points at Dylan with his thumb. That feels strange to me. I've never pointed at someone with my thumb before. Is that a thing? I don't think that's a thing, but last time I didn't think something was a thing. I was like, people don't sit in the middle backseat of cars unless, okay, if someone's like, oh, like backwards, that thing? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad we got there.
I guess I would have appreciated
as he was turning.
Right, like if you said, maybe I missed it, but I don't know if it was like
real quick, raise your hand if you got that before Mike did.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah. That's why reading comprehension was my worst thing on the SATs. And now I do it for my job. Good thing I have an engineering degree.
Good thing you started with children's books.
Yay! Now, is this one young adult? I've leveled up. Whoa. So, okay, pointing back. Okay, fine, cool. This is Mike's an idiot corner. And then Jason says, what are you going to do? Fly to get him? And Hedge says, not fly, climb. And I was like, right, he's a goat. That's their thing. So he kicks off his shoes. Jason is floored. He asks if he's a fawn. And I was like, what's a fawn? Thankfully, that question gets answered very quickly. Hedge corrects him, saying that he's a satyr and says, quote, fawns are Roman, but we'll talk about that later. And I'm like, yeah, probably in chapter 3.
Probably in the next book.
Hedge hops over the ledge. Dylan thinks the rescue mission is cute and tells Jason, it's your turn now. Jason just chucks the club at Dylan. And I was like, that's a choice. Felt rash, but it works. It even, despite the wind, curves and hits Dylan in the head, even though it seemed like it wasn't necessarily going to hit him. It knocks him down to his knees. Piper grabs the club when it rolls towards her, but before she can use it at all, Dylan rises with golden blood running down his forehead. So I'm thinking, oh, then this means this is more than just a monster. Like, is this guy a god? Yeah, interesting. What's going on here? Dylan says that Jason will have to try harder as the skywalk begins to fracture. Dylan's body dissolves into smoke. He takes the form of a swirling black vapor cloud of sorts with electric sparks for eyes and his same brilliant smile. They always said he had this big, toothy, brilliant white smile, so he still has that going on. But then he sprouts black smoky wings and rises into the air because it wasn't scary enough yet. We need creepy wings.
Yeah, I remember being like really creeped out by this. Something about like a smoke monster is just a lot more scary than like a physical monster that you can like kind of predict how they would move and how,
It's also tricky because, how do you hit a smoke monster, as we will see later in this chapter? Like, what do you do? I don't know. Do you feel like you need a vacuum? Like, So then Jason, almost instinctively, he doesn't recognize the word he says, but it just kind of comes out. He says, you're a Ventus, a storm spirit. And I was like, Ventus, Kingdom Hearts in this story? For any of my Birth by Sleep fans out there. And that tracks because Ventus in Kingdom Hearts was named after wind. So for a smoke, wind type of being, that tracks.
I'm sure it's named after Kingdom Hearts and not just the
Well,
Latin
I'm just
words
saying the name makes sense for my combined knowledge of Latin in high school and Kingdom Hearts. Dylan laughs, says, quote, I'm glad I waited, demigod. Leo and Piper I've known about for weeks. Could have killed them at any time. Then why didn't you, you loser? But could have killed them at any time. But my mistress said a third was coming. Oh, that's why. Someone special. She'll reward me greatly for your death. And I just wrote my notes, this book is good. I was very excited. So then 2 more funnel clouds touch down and form venti, which is bad because that is the largest size of coffee at Starbucks. No, it's plural, so there's more.
I was sitting in the green room, like trying to think of like a pun, and I figured you'd get there before I did.
So then you have now multiple smoky wing beings ready to fight. Piper now is pretending to be dazed, and Jason can tell that she's pretending because she's got the club like firmly grasped. Then she kind of just facial expression telepathically says like, let's it be clear to Jason, I'm going to try to get him from behind, keep him busy. And I wrote in my notes, will club beat wind? And we will see.
The first time when Jason threw it, but
I guess, yeah. But wasn't that before he turned into Smoke Dude?
Oh, you're right.
Right. So I was a little bit worried here. And then Jason about this, or at least the narrator, says, cute, smart, and violent. Jason wished he remembered having her as a girlfriend. I was like, oh, okay, Jason narrator. But then, like, I guess he is 16, so that tracks, just like at every point to be like, hubba, hubba. Just big anga vibes.
Yes, only teenagers are attracted to violent women.
I guess it's more of like, focus on the task at hand, Jason. Jason gets ready to charge, but Dylan zaps him with lightning. And Jason says that afterwards, his mouth tastes like burnt aluminum foil, which we all know what that tastes like from all the times that we eat burnt aluminum foil. But also his left shoe gets blasted off by this, and then his foot is all like charcoal-y from the blast. Piper tries attacking the cloud, but it is ineffective. I knew it. Hedge returns with Leo, so that's good. He's safe. Jason tells Dylan to stop, and he is stunned that Jason is still alive, since that was enough lightning to kill 20 men. And I was like, lightning resistance. There's also already been a reference to him not being afraid of heights.
Maybe he's the son of the god of rubber.
Oh!
Oh no,
Hermes?
the trapdoor.
Maybe Hermes because of Goodyear, the logo? Jason then says, my turn, and pulls out the gold coin from his pocket, and he lets instincts take over as he flips the coin, catches it in his palm, and suddenly he has a sword. And I was like, okay, this is cool, but also, I don't know. I kind of liked Pen's sword because it was like a little dinkier. Like, flip the coin's a little too like, look how cool I am.
Yeah.
And now I have a sword. Like, the pen
definitely
is funny because it's canonically dinky. It's a cheap looking pen. Like, if you do a kind of cool thing before a cooler thing, it's not as cool. I don't know, but
I don't know. It kind of like shows like an evolution of like, now we're like cooler. This isn't a 12-year-old hero.
he's 16.
Yeah.
This book is wearing sunglasses. The whole sword is gold. Dylan then takes a step back and to his minion says, well, kill him, which is my favorite villain who has henchmen thing.
What are you waiting for?
Get him! Oh, it's so good. Jason slashes one, absorbs the lightning bolt attack from another, and then pierces the second. So they have both been defeated, and they poof into gold powder. Do the monsters in PJO, they poof into powder, but it's not gold, right? What color is the powder?
It was in the series, but I don't know if it's consistent in the books.
Right. I don't know if there's, okay, maybe it's not a distinct color. In my brain, it was always green, but I don't know if that's just the brain when I'm reading it. But gold felt like a distinct call out of like, maybe these are Roman bad guys. And given their name is Ventus/Venti, that makes more sense. So after Jason does this, Piper is shocked. Hedge drops off Leo and then flexes his short arm saying, spirits, fear me. But then he realizes that only Dylan is left and chides Jason for not leaving any for him to fight because he likes a challenge. I love Coach Hedge. I'm all in on Coach Hedge. This is great. Dylan hisses, but Jason, as the narrator, points out that he can still see like a little bit of fear in his eyes. And he says, you have no idea how many enemies you've awakened, half-bloods. My mistress will destroy all demigods. This war you cannot win. The storm then gets worse. Dylan says the mistress is calling him back, but he's taking Jason with him. Piper is then able to tackle him from behind, so clubs don't work, but tackles do. We're figuring out smoke physics today. Leo, Jason, and Hedge all try to help, but Dylan blasts them away. Piper is now dangling over the edge on the railing. Dylan says that he'll settle for Leo, who is half conscious at this point from the air blast, and then he starts to drag Leo into the sky. Piper calls for help just before she loses her grip. Hedge commands Jason to save her. Jason thinks, save her? She's gone. But instincts take over, and he runs and he jumps over the railing, thinking, I'm a lunatic, as he does it. And then we get from the narrator, Jason wasn't scared of heights. He was scared of being smashed against the canyon floor 500 feet below. And I wrote in my notes, second time they've said the heights thing. Is he a child of Zeus or Jupiter? That would also explain the whole lightning resistance thing. So maybe I'm picking up what Uncle Rick is putting down. He tucks his arm and plummets towards Piper. He catches up to her. He grabs her waist and then braces for death, thinking, I don't know what I've accomplished except now 2 people die instead of 1. But here we are. But as he is bracing for impact, then he just feels the wind stop rushing past him. But he thinks, okay, maybe we did die, but I didn't feel any impact. What's going on? And then Piper stutters, Jason? And he opens his eyes, realizing that they are floating midair above the river 100 to 200 feet up. And Piper adjusts so that she is also hugging him, which I think is great. Like, okay, this is better now. They are nose to nose, and he can feel her heartbeat through her clothes because he's 16. And then, as if this wasn't like silly romantic enough, the narrator then goes, her breath smelled like cinnamon. Okay, Jason. She begins to ask how this is possible, and Jason says, I didn't know I could fly. And then he realizes, okay, it feels like the air is supporting us. And then she goes, well, tell it to support you more. And he thinks about it and he realizes, okay, lowering down would be easier, but I want to help my friends up there. So I got to figure out how to channel this to go up. So he just thinks up and then he kind of just shoots up there. And before he can even really process what's going on, he's landed. And then they just rush back on the deck towards Leo. Leo is covered in gold dust and says, stupid, ugly, goat. And Piper asks where Hedge went, and then he just points upward, saying he never came back down. He can't fully recall what happened, but he hopes that he's just hallucinating. Jason then flips the sword and it turns back into a coin, and I'm like, that's super cool. Now I'm all on board. Like, that's rad to like take the thing and be like, and then it's back into a coin. Very fun. That's cool.
Yeah,
because I've never flipped a sword, but I played tennis, and flipping a tennis racket is really fun, and that's a long-handled thing. So like to do that, and then if it could fit in my pocket, very fun. So I'm all on board for whatever coin Riptide is called, which we'll learn in the future, I guess. I don't know. So he does this move, pretty cool, and Leo then asks, who is Jason? Who are you? Because this stuff is all, new to him. So because of that line, I'm thinking, oh, interesting. Okay. Now it's kind of confirmed that Piper and Leo don't know about the demigod type stuff. So that's what made me think like her dad is probably a cool mortal. Her mom's probably the goddess. But at this point, I realized it's an interesting situation we have here because Jason knows more about the magical side of things and he knows nothing about the mortal world. And on the flip side, Piper and Leo, at least we'll have to see if these are real memories or fake memories from the mist. They know everything about the mortal world, but nothing about the magical world. So it's this interesting, like, our knowledge is combined, we should know everything, but we have separate, opposite knowledges. I think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool setting, especially in context of this is like the first event after the climax of The Last Olympian, where Percy gives the mandate that the gods shouldn't abandon their kids.
Right.
And now we're kind of seeing like the reasons why of like what happens to demigod kids when they're just like left to their own devices and not brought into the fold. They turn into delinquents, or they have to go survive, in the literal wilderness. Or
Right.
like it gets rough for the ones that aren't found until they're older.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued to see how it goes. So the storm is gone. The security guards are trying to unlock the doors, but they can't get it to work. Piper is also confused, doesn't know what a demigod is, so confirmation there. And then Leo points up and asks if those are flying horses, and indeed it is. Jason figures it's probably the aforementioned extraction squad that Hedge mentioned. And at this point, I was really wondering, okay, is it really the mist? Do they have a friendship? Ooh, I was like really ready to read chapter 3, but legally, contractually, with myself, I can't do that by conceit of the podcast. So then,
Would you have to fire yourself? Or
I don't know. I'd at least have to give
Just a
myself a
write-up?
stern talking
Yeah.
to. Yeah.
performance report?
Right. Yeah, I should have quarterly check-ins with myself. How you doing, boss? Great. Not going to fire me? No. So two teens emerge from the chariot after it lands, and it says, quote, a tall blonde girl, maybe a little older than Jason, and a bulky dude with a shaved head and a face like a pile of bricks. They both wore jeans and orange t-shirts with shields tossed over their backs. And I wrote, ooh, potentially Annabeth, but who's Brickface? Is that Tyson? So the blonde girl asks, where is your protector, Gleason Hedge? And that name sounds familiar. I don't know if it's just because I may have seen it across doing the podcast, or if that is maybe a reference to some mythological story. Maybe there's another Gleason. I have no idea. But she asks, where's Gleason Hedge? Leo says that he was taken by the tornado things. And then Jason clarifies, the storm spirits, the Venti. And then the blonde girl says, you mean anemoi theuli? That's the Greek term. Who are you and what happened? And I wrote, okay, Annabeth, calm down. Very clearly Annabeth.
She's back, baby.
She is back, and she is ready to, well, actually. As Jason explains to her what happened, he realizes that it is tough to maintain eye contact with her gray eyes. It's like, okay, all right, super duper Annabeth. She is here, very fun. I knew that she was going to come in the series at some point, but I had no idea how early, and for her to come through in chapter 2 is very fun. He notices that Brickface has a rainbow tattoo on his bicep, and I was like, different interpretation of rainbow, but it still could be Tyson. And then I realized, did they ever
Tyson would just get a not a hippogriff,
hippocampus.
Hippocampus,
Right,
yeah. He would
for
just get
sure.
that.
Yeah, but then I also realized, have they ever described Tyson's hair in the books? Because I was like, I don't think we know anyone with a buzz cut, but do we know what Tyson's hair is? I'm not sure, but it's not Tyson, so we don't have to worry about it. After Jason finishes his story, the blonde girl says, no. She told me he would be here. She told me if I came here, I'd find the answer. And I'm thinking, the answer? What's going on here? Brickface, calling her Annabeth, so we really know that it's her, says, look at Jason's feet. And this causes Jason to remember, oh, right, I lost my shoe, and that his foot was burnt. And Brickface says, the guy with one shoe, he's the answer. And then Annabeth calls this guy Butch. And I'm like, ooh, a new friend, Butch. I like that Butch has a rainbow tattoo. That's very fun. I was once gifted for my birthday in high school a unicorn Beanie Baby, and I renamed him Butch McManliness.
Yeah, it really makes me wonder, like, is this just a nickname? Is this like overcompensating for...
Or were his parents like, he will be Butch?
Yes.
A wild choice.
Preemptive protection.
Apologies to any Butches listening out there. Cool nickname for sure. And if it's your birth name, extra cool. Your parents are fun. So she thinks that this is a trick, then asks the sky, what do you want from me? And what have you done with him? And this is when I wrote, Percy's the lost hero. And this was my guess, like going into it. I don't think I recorded this anywhere, but it might have come up in like a live show Q&A or something. But if someone had asked me, like, who do you think the lost hero is? I would have guessed Percy Jackson, just because it's a fun way for it to be a Percy story, but not have Percy in the first book. So I think that's like a pretty easy guess. But given Annabeth's emotions here, it very much was lining up as like Percy Jackson is missing. So then Annabeth says that they have to leave and that they should bring these three to camp and figure it out there because the storm spirits may return. So I'm thinking, okay, we had mentioned camp earlier. I know there's a Latin camp. I don't really know much about it except for the purple shirts. And now I'm thinking, okay, maybe they are going to go back to Camp Half-Blood. And when they said the director, maybe they are talking about Mr. D. Fun. So they say, bring him to camp. We'll figure it out. And then Annabeth gives Jason a resentful look and says, fine, we'll settle this later, which is classic. Piper and Leo agree that she has an attitude problem. Butch says that they must join them, and Jason says, I don't want to go with her either. So
She's going to push me off the chariot.
I love that we have this trio that, of course, everyone is like going to want them to be friends. But the initial reaction of all three of them is like, I do not like Annabeth Chase. I want nothing to do with her. And I'm sure by the end of the book, they will all be best friends and it'll be totally fine. But we will have to see. But yeah, Jason is also on board, saying he doesn't want to go anywhere with her, saying that she looks like she wants to kill him. Butch tries to reason with them, saying, quote, Annabeth's okay. You got to cut her some slack. She had a vision telling her to come here to find a guy with one shoe. That was supposed to be the answer to her problem. And Piper asks, what problem? And Butch says, she's looking for a lost camper. And then I just wrote 4 exclamation points in my notes. And then Butch continues, saying that Annabeth has been stressed out and thought she would find him here. And Jason asks who, and Butch replies, her boyfriend, a guy named Percy Jackson. Let's go! So, that is the end of chapter 2. That is the end of this portion of the episode of the News Olympian, if you are listening after the fact. So let's all say goodbye to the podcast people here. Goodbye, podcast people.
Hello and welcome to the first mid-roll break of the Heroes of Olympus era of the newest Olympian. As you know, the first book in HOO is The Lost Hero, so the mid-roll break for this book will be called The Lost Euro. That is right. I had a couple of other ideas floating around, and you will hear this in the next couple of episodes because I'm recording this mid-roll break on April 11th, but I've already recorded like the first 4 or 5 episodes of Heroes of Olympus coverage. So you'll hear me wonder about calling it the Cost Hero instead of the Lost Hero, but that felt too negative. I don't want the mid-roll break to feel like a drag. It's more than just ad reads. Honestly, it's usually more not ad reads than ad reads, but the Lost Euro is fun. There were 2 different people on Instagram who suggested this, and I tried to find the messages, and Instagram got rid of the thing where you can search your messages, or at least it's not showing up on the TNO IG account. If you were one of those 2 people, send me a message so I can properly credit you in the future. But I like the Lost Euro because we do have a lot of international listeners, and I like to throw them a bone from time to time because I know this can be very America-centric at times because I'm American and the books are American. So if we can bring you all into the mix a little bit more, I think that's good, especially because every time I post tour dates, you were like, what month is 30? What are you talking about? But anyway, that is going to be the mid-roll break unless some divine inspiration strikes. But I think the Lost Euro sounds pretty good. Now, here in the Lost Euro, we've got a couple of updates. First, you might be thinking April 11th is when he recorded this. That seems kind of early. Well, that's because this episode released early. Yes, you can get early release episodes and also ad-free episodes by joining the TNO Patreon at any TNO tier. You just got to go to thenewsolympian.com/Patreon. I'm recording this on Thursday because I'm going to get the episode up on Thursday. So if you're like, what? The episodes normally come out on Monday. I could have listened to this multiple days in advance. That is right. All you got to do is join the Patreon over at thenewsolympian.com/Patreon. Now, there are other fun things going on now that the Heroes of Olympus era is here. First, if you don't want to just hear this episode, you want to see this episode, you can see it. There is a video replay of the live stream that we did. It was a gorgeous live stream, multicam setup, super cool stuff. I put in the high quality audio from my podcast audio editing. So even if you watched the stream, it's a better version now, but you can go over to thenewsolympian.com/merch and get access to that. You can buy the replay there. And if you already did buy the stream, check your emails because I'm going to be sending an email to everyone who bought the stream at any point, whether that was when it was live or the replay version of it, and you will get now a video version as well, so you can watch it whenever you want. Also, we have new merchandise for the Heroes of Olympus era. We've got the shiny gold HOO TNO stickers. I didn't know much about the series going into it. I just knew that on the books, there's like a gold little circle with an omega on it that says the Heroes of Olympus. So Kelly and I worked together on a design to make a TNO version of that. And the sticker itself is shiny gold, which is really cool. So you can also get that at thenewsolympian.com/merch. And the final thing about more content in regards to this episode, I answered the rest of the questions that people sent in for the Q&A portion in a Patreon bonus episode. So if you join the Super God tier or above, you can listen to me answer every other question that was emailed in. And as I will reference after the break, a lot of questions were sent and it was a very fun Q&A. So if you want to hear me answer every single question, go listen to that bonus episode on Patreon. Now, speaking of the Patreon, I want to thank the folks who have joined the Patreon most recently. So shout out to our newest demigod tier patrons, Emma Eichhorn and Flipmastar. Thank you all so much for your support. May Poseidon bless you that whenever you are doing laundry, you set the correct water temperature based on what type of clothes you are washing, and you don't accidentally do something like wash your bedding on cold or wash your colors that you don't want to shrink on hot. Now, if you're all caught up on the newest Olympian and you're looking for a new podcast to listen to, you are in luck because I make a whole bunch of podcasts and I think they're very good and I think you'll enjoy them, especially if you like this podcast. One of the shows that I make is a little bit different, but still incredibly fun. It is Modern Muckraker. Modern Muckraker is a scripted show. We have one season of it out so far. I worked with a whole team of writers and researchers and musicians and sound editors, and we made a high quality sounding podcast. It basically sounds like you're listening to an NPR investigative journalism type show, but instead of answering serious questions, we answer questions such as, when should Spider-Man take the subway instead of web swinging? And is the budget of East High from High School Musical realistic for a public school in Albuquerque, New Mexico? But the dedication we put into these was as if we were doing real journalism. So we talked to highly overqualified experts. We put in a ton of effort to truly answer these questions as if we were completing the most important research on the planet. You can listen to those 4 episodes at modernmuck.com or by searching for Modern Muckraker wherever you get your podcasts. Now, unless you're listening on Patreon where you get every episode, you're about to hear words from a few sponsors to make it feasible for me to be a full-time podcaster. Some of those ads will be read by me, such as sponsors like Thrive Market, a grocery online delivery service, or Pretty Litter, a smart cat litter company. And then some won't be read by me. Those are inserted locally. So if you live in North Carolina, don't be surprised if you hear an ad for the Wright Brothers Museum. I don't know if that exists, but I bet it does. But once those ads are complete, we'll get back into this episode of The New Olympian, which is the very fun Q&A section from this live show.
Just an update on the Percy Jackson front. Kelly did send me a text message that the reason Coach Hedge's name sounded familiar is that he is mentioned on page 73 of the last Olympian. That is mentioned with like talking to Grover about the different satyrs and stuff. So what a fun reference. Cool. Haha. My brain, it works. So, oh, right. That's what happens when you have a live stream with 250 people on it. You get a lot of questions. Okay. A lot of questions. So this one is from Aaron. The subject line is, you didn't answer my question last night, so here I am again. Also not watching basketball. I got to respect anyone who came to both shows. And who came to the show last night and tonight? Wow. Awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. That's super cool. So Aaron says, since my D&D question last night was already asked, my question for tonight is, based on the 2 chapters you have read, what do you think the D&D classes of the new characters, Jason, Leo, and Piper, are? So I think I have done this for the main trio, but now for our new trio, what D&D classes? I'm not like super well versed in classes, so I might need some help here.
Okay.
Leo does feel like a bard to me, just from like the silliness. He feels like a team player, but is there like a tinker?
There's an artificer class.
Okay,
That's definitely
artificer sounds way better. Piper, it's hard because I feel like in the first 2 chapters,
might
the
be
least
bard,
we've gotten for
but
Piper.
yeah.
But I feel like Piper, to me, and I don't know like what her
The only
demigod
thing that we
powers will
really
be.
know is that she talked a dealer into giving her a BMW. So that's kind of why I'm
so
thinking
that's bard, yeah, the like
persuasive.
wordsmith. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Jason just kind of feels like
He gives me paladin vibes, you know,
Okay.
like I hate bullies.
Oh,
kind of
okay.
instincts.
Yeah, I mean, so far from Jason, we've just like, we could see maybe like a warrior, just like a, like rush in,
Just
try
a
to save
fighter,
the day
yeah.
kind of thing. But also with the electricity and all, could go that way as well. So I'm not really sure, but I'm excited to see how my thoughts change as the series goes on. This one is from Griffin. Griffin says, nice shoes at the Comedy Zone. Go FC Charlotte. Yeah, I saw a banner that said you've had a soccer or football team for all of like 2 weeks. So yeah, new team. That's fun. My question is, baby. My question is, in Kingdom Hearts, Sora has several Disney IPs that he is able to summon from various movies, TV shows, etc. Since, as you've mentioned before, there is a striking similarity to Kingdom Hearts and PJO's now officially Disney TV IP, what would the main trio's summon ability to help Sora defeat the Heartless? So, everyone knows exactly what those sentences meant, right? So in Kingdom Hearts, you are a Final Fantasy type character and you go into Disney worlds, and some of the people you meet can like be power-ups where you will like channel them and like
You go into Disney worlds? Or-
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Disney worlds. There's also some Final Fantasy stuff, but then like it'll be like, help, it's me, Mulan. I need to take down.
Okay, so
Yeah.
no, you go into worlds from Disney, not
Yes. No,
Disney
no,
World.
you don't go to.
Yes.
Though there are some things where Disney rides are like special attacks you can do, where
okay.
there's like a Splash Mountain attack and stuff.
They're not going to Florida.
No, they're not going to Florida or California. But what happens is you'll have some people as a summon ability, like Stitch will come in and like mess someone's stuff up. So if we have the main PJO trio coming in as like a power attack to help Sora, what would they do? I could see Percy coming in doing some sort of like big,
Wave.
basically like hydro pump. Annabeth, I could see like sneaking with the invisibility and kind of like doing a sneak attack on your
roguey.
enemy. And then I would love it if Grover either had like reed pipe song or he does his like panic, like chaos scream, and it just
That's
like
nice.
pandemonium makes all the enemies go away. I think this would be really fun. Cool. This next one is from Tori. Tori says, what is your favorite book of all time? And is it Pride and Prejudice? From Tori, a 1.5x listener. Power to you. I don't know how you do that. Favorite book of all time, and you should answer as well. I mean, the one that was like most impactful was Holes by Louis Satchar. That's like the first one that made me like get into being like, reading can be fun. But as far as my favorite of all time, gosh, I don't know. Like, I want to pick something that isn't just like one of the books I've done on the podcast, but
All time is tough because, like, I don't remember what books I read, like, you know, more than 2 years ago.
yes, same.
The Name of the Wind is like what got me back into reading as an adult.
Okay.
So that
Yeah.
might be at least the recent favorite.
Yeah, I've heard very good things about that series as well. Man, favorite book. There's some that I've read recently that are really good. I did really enjoy Go Ahead in the Rain is a book by Hanif Abdurraqib. He's a poet, but it's like a half poetry book and then a half like the history of A Tribe Called Quest, the hip hop group. And it's just a nice like half history, half poetry, all incredible vibes book. And I really did enjoy that one. Read it on the beach, had a great time. Okay, this one is from Robert's subject line, chapter titles aren't fun. Hey Mike, watching from the live stream. As you pointed out at the beginning of the pod, the episodes don't have snazzy titles anymore. So what if you flexed on us and came up with cool new titles for this pair of chapters? I got one you can use for this if you so wish. Jason wins a coin toss. That's good. That's really good. That's really good. So yeah, the 2 chapters. So the first one was just like, he's confused, and then, like, where does it end? Because I went so quickly, I didn't remember where chapter 1 ended and chapter 2 began. Oh, it was like the circumstances were bad, so like pre the fight.
Before the storm got bad.
Yeah. So he hasn't flipped the coin, so that could chapter 2 would maybe be that one. But I think also for chapter 2 you could do some. I wanted to
Something
like.
like he jumped off a bridge. or
Yeah,
something.
that feels Percy Jackson.
Yeah.
Like something where it was like, I make the choice of a lunatic since he said like, I'm a lunatic as he jumped over. In the first one, I feel like maybe like I hold a stranger's hand or something.
I wake up with a girlfriend. Or,
right. Or like I meet my unknown girlfriend, like something like that. But that's a really fun question. Yeah, maybe I could start like doing that on the pod, like trying to come up like, if this did have a chapter title, and that can replace me trying to
Weren't
guess
you
what
just
happens.
saying that you were glad that you like weren't spending all the time to
I did
talk
say,
about the
yeah. So
chapter
Michael and I,
titles?
when we were talking on tour, I was saying like, oh, like I was very delighted to learn because people are wondering like, are you going to take 1,000,000 years to do these books? My plan for the podcast is to do like every time the perspective changes per episode, which so far seems to be 2 chapters. And when I was taking the notes, like I was just going frantically taking them all. And then when I looked big picture at the notes, I was like, oh, this is about the same amount of notes that I take when I do 1 chapter of a PJO book. So this should work. But then I was saying to Michael, like, oh, it is nice that if I don't have to spend the time guessing what the chapter title means, we can just get right into it. But now I've given myself a fun challenge. So this one is from Renea. Is that how you say your name? Renee. Okay. Renee says, based on initial vibes of the new Friends TM, which of them would be most likely to win in an episode of Meddling Adults, my charity whodunit game show podcast where we do children's mysteries? You should all listen to it. Season 5 is kind of out now because I did an emergency. I got Dara Ó Briain on my podcast episode. Wild. But out of these 3, the best, I would think... Weirdly, I feel like Leo would be very
seems
good.
the most,
Just seems like the most like adept at picking up
hyper-focus.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like he'd be especially good at the
I have to figure this out.
I feel like he'd be very good at the Encyclopedia Brown episodes in particular, because those are very much like, did you notice the one tiny detail in the story that didn't make sense? So far, that would be my guess. But that's a fun one. This one is from Amber. What is one thing you're hoping happens in this book and one thing you're hoping happens across the 5-book series as a whole? I mean, I guess it's already going to happen, but I love like the new characters meeting the old characters. I think if I had answered this like before reading, I was like, I hope the new trio meets the old trio. That could be fun. And then as far as like the whole series, I would love to see like just like a big, you know, like it's happened in Kingdom Hearts, it happens in Horizon Zero Dawn if you've played that game, just like the big end of like, here are all the cool friends we know, and they're all fighting at the same time. Because I feel like we didn't fully get that in PJO. Like we got a little bit of the main trio, but like Thalia had the setback, and like
that was like a really drawn out battle.
Yeah. But more of just like, it was more of like a smaller thing, and it was really just kind of like mainly
segmented,
the trio. But I would love to see just like, because I know it's like 7 heroes or whatever the prophecy is. I would love to see something where it's like all 7 like group Kamehameha against Chronos 2, the sequel, you know, like I think that would be really, really fun. This is from Aaron. Aaron says, love the show. You're killing it. What is the wildest or most unbelievable thing in a positive or negative way you've gotten to experience because of the pod or podcasts? I think like wild is positive, like getting invited to the Percy Jackson premiere, bizarre, bonkers, like totally ridiculous. But the wildest one, as I did just reference, like getting Dara Ó Briain, who's like a very famous comedian he's like he's Irish, but he's like big in like the UK comedy circus stuff and on panel shows and stuff. Like he had no business being on my podcast. And then he did a live show in New York, and then he was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to this bar after and just like hang out. And we just like, me and Kelly just like grabbed drinks with Dara Ó Briain until 3:45 in the morning. And it was just great because it was just like exceedingly very normal. But the whole time I was like, this is bizarre. This is so strange. Aaron says, P.S. I completely forgot to thank you both last night for such a great show. So thanks for the laughs in the picture. P.S.S. Can we see your socks? They look so pretty from the front row, ? Yeah. So these are purple floral socks. I just thought they would go well with the purple shirt. The lavender and the lavender checks out. So I'm glad that has all been documented. I put a lot of thought into outfit choices. And I'm glad that gets recognized on the show. This one is from Brandon, subject line, 30th birthday live stream, all caps. Hi, my name is Brandon, Slytherin, not racist, thank you. Child of Aphrodite and history teacher. I saw this show was going to be on my 30th birthday and I knew I had to see it. Happy birthday. Welcome to 30. My question is, if you had to see another historical figure be referenced as a child of the gods, like Houdini, Washington, Harriet Tubman, and PJO, who would it be and what would their godly parent be? So, we got to pick one of those like, person from history is actually a demigod the whole time. Who do you think, or who would you want to see? I think personally, as I already referenced, because we're in North Carolina, I would love to see J.J. Redick as a child of Apollo, because he's a very good 3-point shooter, and that feels like that tracks for archery. And I would love to learn that JJ Redick is a child of Apollo. Or maybe, it can't be a child of Artemis, but like if you could kind of thing, if he was like immaculate conceptionized, one of the bow and arrow type people.
I was going to say Apollo too, but more for like music, like some musician.
Okay. Which one?
I don't have anything specific. But yeah, just famous musicians or poets would be cool.
Cool. I think that's very fun. And I think that's a fun note to end the show on. Thank you all so much for coming out to the show. Give yourselves a round of applause for making it out. Stream as well. Thank you very much. Give it up to Michael for being an incredible guest for both acts. Give it up to the folks who are doing the stream. Brad and the whole team are doing an incredible job, so shout out to them. And shout out to everyone here at the Comedy Zone for doing an incredible job. It was fantastic and super smooth. And also, shout out to Julie and Colin who helped at the merch table. That was awesome. You can still get stuff on the way out if you want. There's also the beads there. I didn't mention the beads that Michael's wearing, so that's super cool, so you can get the beads. But yes, thank you to everyone who made this possible, whether you're here or in the stream or watching the replay after the fact. I very much appreciate it. Thank you very much. And until I make my way back to North Carolina, because I gotta come back since these all sold so well, until I return, I'll... Thanks so much for coming out, everybody!
Hi, thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Newest Olympian. This podcast is created, hosted, and produced by me, Mike Schubert. I also run the social media and the website. Our editor is Sherry Guo. The music is by Bettina Campomanes and Brandon Krugel, and the art is by Jessica E. Boyd. If you enjoy the show and you can't get enough, you can head on over to thenewestolympian.com/Patreon, and you can get access to a whole bunch of bonus content. You can also find us on social media. We're at Newest Olympian on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and there's a subreddit, reddit.com/r/thenewestolympian. If you want to support the show with some TNO merch, you can go to thenewestolympian.com/merch. And if you want to see if we've got a live show coming to a city near you, head on over to thenewestolympian.com/live. I mentioned that Patreon earlier. Let's give a shout out to our producer level patrons: Kelsey Gillespie, The Damn Steam Nuggets, Vicky Garcia, Veronica Bartova, Frida Vikstrom, Megan Moon, Craig McRoberts, Taylor Payne, Sabrina Balsiger, Boney Pony, Polly Burge, Nikki Harris, Tatiana Schmidt, Sandra Rose, Josh Sayer, Josh Wilkie, Abby Ryan, Ashton Gabrielson, Margot Redhouse, Sam Reeby, Riley Kiddes, Mrs. O'Leary, Milo Kim, Santa Kopf, Julia Kendall, Rick A, John Drielsma, Rayla Matthews, Luna Kadoon, Sky Mallory, Per Sasabeth, Aiden Parziani, Biggest Tyson Fan, King Bastion, One Damn Distraction coming up, Ginger Spurs Boy, A Cup of Solace, Meg Roy, Olivia Krinicki, Bradimus Prime, Kibo Guy, Skylar Sisters, Demigod Nurse, Zachary Hamilton, Scott Sheldon, Sophie Natanya Page, and M. Thayer Cohen, Finlay McLeod, Sarah Elise Arnson, Bella, and Hayden Neal. If you want to support the show in a non-monetary way, word of mouth helps the podcast so much. Whether you reach out to someone directly and say, hey, there's this podcast called The Newest Olympian. It's about Percy Jackson. I think you would really like it. Whether that person is a Percy Jackson superfan or someone you're trying to convince to get into the books. You can also just talk about the show on social media. That helps. You could even just leave a rating and review on whatever podcasting app you're using. All of these things really help. I appreciate everyone who has already done so, and I appreciate anyone who will do so in the future. But I'm just so thankful that you tuned into this episode, and I hope you tune into our next episode where we will be joined by Walker Scobell to discuss Chapter 3 of Heroes of Olympus, and also a little tiny interview at the end after. But until then, I'll see you later. Hey everyone, how's it going? It's me, ASMR Mike. So here in the Shubio, I have a couple of different things, and some of the things in here are things that I need to sort out later and figure out where to put them. One of them is a pamphlet that I received from a recent protest that I attended. It's a very informational pamphlet. I just don't know where to put it, but I do know one use I can use for it right now, which is for this ASMR Mike segment. So let's kind of wobble it around a little bit. And then now I'm going to kind of flip through the pages. It's hard because it's one of those like stapled in the middle things and there's not that many pages. So let me see if I can get a good like noise. Thank you so much for listening.